Okay, so this week, we're working on our memory snapshot. Your job this week to be ready to turn in next week is your rough draft, okay? So that means you're going to start writing it out. And guess what? You're going to be typing it on Google Docs and sharing it with me so that I can see your progress and I can leave comments for you, okay? Yeah, you only need to share it with me for right now. Okay, so today we're going to talk about planning your narrative. So before you start writing, it's important that you make a plan. Some writers use a story arc to plan a narrative. Have you heard of this before? Let's take a look. So here is a story arc. Have you seen one of these before?
I've seen it, but I've never heard of it.
So it starts with, usually it introduces the characters and the setting in the beginning. And then the rising action, it's getting more and it's building excitement, getting more and more exciting until it reaches the climax. The climax is the most important part, the most exciting part. That's where all the action is, okay? So where it says conflict introduced, that means like that's when they say what the problem is. And this is when the character is trying to solve the problem. This is like the big fight or the big, part when they're trying to solve it. Then it starts to calm down and the problem is solved, okay? In our stories, there might not be a problem, but there's probably some point that you really want to talk about that's exciting or interesting, okay? If you remember my story, it's about hang gliding, and there's not a part that there's a problem, but the exciting part is when I'm up in the air, okay? So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how I'm starting to plan out my narrative, and I'm going to give you Post-its and this sheet so that you can start planning it out yourself, okay? So when I started to think about what my picture was about because my picture is really the exciting part. So here's my first Post-it. I was flying through the air. That was super exciting, okay? So that helped me to kind of start thinking about how I'm going to map this out. And I'm giving you Post-its so that you can change these around in case once you start thinking about it, you're like, oh no, that was really not the exciting part or whatever, okay? The falling action does not have to be literal. In mine, it will be.
Yours can, yeah.
So I started off with driving up the mountain. We were in a van. I can remember going really fast, and we were going up the mountain. I can remember that really well, okay? Yeah, for mine, it works really well because I started at the bottom of the mountain, I went up the mountain, and then I came down the mountain. So it worked really well for me, but your story might be a little bit different. Okay, so next, we start to go up the mountain. We start setting up the hang glider. Okay, that was really important part, right? Because if we didn't set it up right, then that would be bad news for me. Okay, then we jumped off the mountain, okay? Now, as I look at this, I kind of want to revise this because when I look and I see jumped off the mountain and flying through the air was awesome, and that's what my picture is about. But jumping off the mountain was like the really intense, exciting part. So, because they're Post-its, I can move this to be over here and move this to be up there, okay? There's no exact amount of how many you need to have. You can choose, okay? And at the end, I said we landed safely on the field. Now notice, I could write this up and I could do one sentence for each thing and have a paragraph and be done. But would that be a really good show, not tell? No. Remember that when we looked at the example of the show, not tell, it took a telling sentence, which was just one sentence, and it turned it into a paragraph. I could actually write a paragraph about each of these Post-its. I could even combine two Post-its and put them both in one paragraph. So it's really up to me as the author to decide how I'm going to do this. Okay? So I'm going to give you some time so that you can start writing down your Post-its. If you need to talk to a neighbor to really talk about what your memory was so that you remember it better, then you can do that, okay?